So hi everyone, I'm Casey Uhlenhut. I'm a program manager at Microsoft. Specifically, I work on .NET and Visual Studio. I'm super excited to be in Belgium, first time ever. I think I pronounced everything wrong. I thought people spoke French here. Learned that Flemish is a thing. That's pretty cool. Yeah. So that's that. I'm clearly from America, if you couldn't tell by this outrageous accent. And I probably sound even a little differenter than most Americans because I got this little twang that comes out every now and then. And that's because I'm from the beautiful state of Kentucky. So I have some awesome .NET stickers for whoever can guess which of these 3 states is Kentucky. So if you think it's number 1, raise your hand. All right, if you think it's number 2, raise your hand. All right, and if you think it's number 3. All right, so the answer is actually number 2. Woohoo, yeah, so come find me afterwards and I'll give you some stickers. And you know that this one's Kentucky because Kentucky Fried Chicken comes from there and it kind of looks like a fried drumstick. So that's how you know. All right, so for the rest of today, this is what we're going to talk about. So I'll introduce Roslyn and what Roslyn is. You've probably heard of it, or if you haven't, we'll just refresh it. We'll talk about the new lightweight projects that we've added in Visual Studio 2017. We'll talk about how we've made the inner loop more productive. So the inner loop you might hear us talk about, it's like the whole cycle of development that you're doing over and over again inside the editor. So it's writing code, navigating code, testing your code, debugging, then back to navigating, writing, testing, debugging over and over again. And then we'll talk about how all these new experiences that we've added to Visual Studio 2017 are going to let you change your onboarding process for bringing on new developers to your team. We have a pretty nice flow for that now. And then we'll end with all the performance improvements that we've done. And that was a real focus of Visual Studio 2017, so we'll walk through all of those. And then it's going to be a lot of information, so hopefully we'll have time to do a Q&A so you can ask me as many questions as you want. If you're ever confused at some point or have a question, just kind of wave your hand, and I'll try to answer it as we go. All right. So about 2 years ago, we shipped Visual Studio 2015, and that was like July, I believe. And the big thing that came with that was Roslyn. Roslyn is the code name for the project where we re-architected the C# and Visual Basic compiler from native code into managed code. So it's a whole new compiler that shipped in 2015 and all the future versions. And there's 2 main reasons we did this. The first is it allows us to write new features faster. And by new features, I mean language features as well as IDE features. So for example, 2015 shipped with C# 6, and now less than 2 years later, C# 7 is out. And now in a couple months, C# 7.1 is coming out. So we're able to actually do point releases of our languages now because of Roslyn lets us develop so much quicker. The second reason we did Roslyn is it allows us to provide an open source API over the compiler so that anyone can write a code-focused tool or technology. So for example, if you want to write a code generation tool, you can now just use these APIs to do it. If you want to write a code formatter, you can do that as well. And so, for example, there's like Ozcode that wrote a whole bunch of new debugging things. There was a project called Alive that kind of did unit testing and live debugging as well. OmniSharp uses Roslyn, so a ton of different people are using Roslyn today to write awesome C# tooling. So for the rest of the talk, we're basically going to talk about how my team has leveraged Roslyn to make Visual Studio 2017 the most productive IDE out there, in my non-partisan, non-biased opinion. So let's get started. While we were working on Roslyn actually took 8 years for us to do. So it was a huge investment. And in the meantime, people were installing a lot of third-party extensions so that they could be productive right away in Visual Studio. And basically, they found 5 things kind of missing or that needed work in Visual Studio, and these were the top 5. And so now that we have Roslyn and we can ship these things quicker, we really focus this release on improving productivity in these 5 sectors. And so do these 5 things resonate with you all at all? Kind of? Yeah, does the priority order resonate with you guys? Or do you think one of them is more important? Kind of? Okay. And so We really focus on refactoring and navigation. You'll see new testing stuff that we've done. We really focus on code style enforcement across the team, which I have a whole nother talk on that tomorrow evening that you can check out. And then we really worked on making smarter IntelliSense. Sorry, what's that? Smarter IntelliSense, whatever that means. All right, so that's enough talking. Let's actually demo. Oh, I can't use trackpad. Oh no. Resolution problems. Okay, let's try this again. So what I'm about to show you is not released yet, a lot of it. So some of Visual Studio 2017 released in March, the RTW, but update 3 will be in the coming months. And so a lot of the stuff I'm going to show you is in update 3. And then I'm also working on .NET Core 2.0 bits, so that's going to be exciting because that's still in preview. All right. Let's start with the install experience. So when you first get started in Visual Studio 2017, you're going to notice that the install experience is totally different. So now we have all these workloads that you can choose from to pick and choose exactly what you want. Oh, we're not showing anything. Oh, duh. I don't know what to do. It says I'm presenting. Oh, duplicate. Okay, sorry guys. All right. All right, now you can see. Oh, come on, you can do it. Hyper-V, come on. Well, maybe, okay, let's have close and start again. All right, so I will try to tell you when I am working in RTW bits versus update 3 versus what's coming. Are any of you on Visual Studio 2017 today? All right, oh cool. That's like almost half, if not more. Awesome. All right, so those of you who have installed Visual Studio 2017, you obviously notice the install experience is different. We now let you pick and choose exactly what you want installed. So if you only do desktop development, you can just check to do only desktop development. If you do only C++, you can now install only C++, et cetera. And so we have all this different workloads that you can choose from. You can also, once you have your workload, choose to uninstall or install things from there. So if you want to add F# language support, you can do that. If you don't want it, you can uncheck it, et cetera. We also will tell you down here what your install size will be based on what you've selected. So right now it's 0 because I'm just modifying an install, so I already have everything installed. But that is the cool new lightweight install experience that we have in 2017. So your install time should be a lot faster. Like for me, building this demo where you have to pave your machine a ton of times and reinstall Visual Studio, it only takes me about 30 minutes to install VS when it's usually an all-day production. So we've done a lot of improvements there. So the next kind of lightweight experience I want to show is the new lightweight projects. So if I come over here, so I have this direction class that I want to add to my project, so I'm just going to drag it through the File Explorer, and if you keep your eye over here-ish, you should actually see the file now appear there. So I can just copy this, put it in here, and almost instantly it's going to appear. Oh, boop, there it is. And so now with file globbing support in projects, you can now keep your Solution Explorer and File Explorer always in sync, which is something that we've added. We also now have the ability to edit CSproj files directly from your project. So you don't have to unload your project, edit your CSproj, and then reload it. Now it's just from a single location. You can edit your CSproj file. And you'll notice that the CSproj file is a lot smaller than it used to be. That's because we've done a ton of work to actually make this lighter weight and simpler so that everything you need is right there. So you can see all your package references here. We also have the corresponding nodes inside the Solution Explorer. So those are the lightweight kind of new project features and experiences that we've added. They're only for .NET Core today. We are planning on bringing them to other project types, but if you want to play with it today, it's only in .NET Core. So when we shipped Visual Studio 2017 in March, probably the coolest thing that you noticed was live unit testing. And now it works for .NET Core in Update 3. So if you were trying to play with it with .NET Core, it now works in Update 3. And what live unit testing is it kind of shifts how we typically do unit testing. So typically, you're always playing this game of like, what's the minimum set of unit tests I can run while still probably checking that the code changes I made work without having to wait too long to wait for the unit test to run. Do you all know that struggle? I know that struggle. And then you have to manually click a button to run them, and then you have to like navigate to some results window to see the output of your unit test. So what live unit testing does is it removes all this and automates it for you. So we're going to figure out, based on your code change via Roslyn, what tests we need to run for you. We'll automatically run them for you. And then we'll display inline in the editor with these icons the status of your tests. So a red X means this line of code is hit by at least one failing test. A green check means this line of code is hit by all passing tests. And a blue dash means this line of code isn't covered by any tests at all. You can click on the X to see exactly what tests are hitting it. You can hover over a failing one and see your error message right away for why it's failing. You can double click to navigate to a test if you want. And some of you might be thinking, oh my God, you're running all my tests all the time. Like that's going to be like a performance nightmare. So what you can actually do is you can come to the Solution Explorer, and we have this concept of a live test set. And so that's basically the set of tests that you're always running live. You can choose to include or exclude unit test projects from that live test set. Or if you just have individual pesky tests that you never want to run, you can do it at the individual level as well by coming here and choosing to include or exclude that specific test. And when you do that, these test icons will go from these kind of like filled looking beakers to empty beakers. So I'm not totally sure why this test is failing, so it's going to go ahead and debug it and see what happens. Should also unpin Solution Explorer. Are you all able to see the screen okay? Yeah, kind of. Do I need to make font bigger? Response, okay. Cool. So we've added a ton of debugging features to Visual Studio 2017 to make you more productive. So let's unpin this stuff. So right now I've hit a breakpoint. And you'll notice that there are these little like green play buttons that kind of appear when I hover next to different lines. And this is run to click. So run to click is, instead of having to drag this yellow marker to execute further lines of code when debugging, I can just now immediately click one of these and it's going to run to that icon. So if I click it now, oops, I've thrown an exception. But this is the new exception helper. That's part of Visual Studio 2017, where we try to put the most important information at the top level. So for example, you can see here that I've thrown a null reference exception. So obviously I want to know, well, what was the null thing that I hit? And so now you can see at the top level that it was this lat variable that returned that was null. And so now immediately where I need to go next. So because this is null, I now want to add a null check. So every update that we do, we add more and more refactorings and quick actions, which you can access with Control Dot. We've also made it in Visual Studio 2017. You can use Alt-Enter because so many people are coming from backgrounds where that's what they're used to for accessing these. And so you can do that, and we can add null check with a single click. So again, click, and then I can do Control Dot again, right here, add another null check. And then you'll notice that live unit testing is figuring out exactly what tests were impacted by this code change, writing the tests for me, and then updated them inline in the context of my development to let me know that all my unit tests are now passing. So on the subject of more refactorings and quick actions, we know a lot of people are installing third-party extensions to get this productivity, but we really think you should be able to be productive right away in Visual Studio and then add things later for further functionality. But in order to do a basic core refactoring, you should be able to just get that inside your IDE. So let's see another thing that we've done. If I uncomment this, a lot of us sometimes when we're working with teams and we're doing a lot of merges, we get these like merge conflict markers that show up, and they're kind of hard to read. You have to figure out which one you're going to take, which one you're going to get rid of. And so we've added, if you do control dot, you'll know, can you see? Yeah. So you can choose to take which change that you want or choose to take both, and we just have a nice little refactoring to do that for you. And so I've taken the commit that I want. And again, live unit testing is running to figure out what I need to do. So this entire app that I've been writing is a .NET Core 2.0 app that's basically going to try to help me figure out when I need to catch my bus in the morning, because I got this hair. It doesn't do itself, So it takes time. So I need to like wake up in the morning and be like, when does my next bus come? I need to know the next 3 times so I know how quickly I have to get up. So that's what this is doing. And it turns out that buses go 2 ways. Like, they go east-west or north-south. So I can't just pick a random bus. I need to have it actually go in the direction to work. So I need to kind of add that. So I'm going to use Control-T to go to all. And so this is a feature that we've actually had since Visual Studio 2013, I believe, maybe 2012. It's with Control Comma. It's still with Control Comma today, but we also made it Control-T. And it just shows any file type, member, or symbol declaration from a single location. So I know I'm looking for stop, so you can see all the file types, members, and symbols from here that have stop. We've added, since 2013, the ability to filter with these icons. So can you all see that? And when you can also use a query syntax, which actually I prefer instead. So I'm looking for files, so I type F, looking for types, T, what else? Symbols, members. And so you can see at the top it's changing which one you're filtering by. So I know I'm looking for the file stop, so I just type f-stop and then enter and navigate there. So now that I'm here, I actually need to add a parameter because direction, as we know, matters. So I'm going to type direction, which was, again, that file that I dragged in earlier, so I can immediately start using it. And then now, as part of that smarter IntelliSense that people have been asking for, a lot of people want the ability to have us suggest variable names for them. So here we're typing in a parameter to a construction. It has a type direction, so we're like, hey, you probably just want to name this direction. So rather than having to type it out, we automatically give it to you for you. We're also thinking of doing like a humanizer to it, so that if you type like moose, we know that a group of moose is moose. Or if, or like, well, I guess we'll have to make it mooses or something for that one. But if you have like a list of persons, a list of person, we'll like offer to name it people. That's not yet, but that's where we're trying to go in the next step. And so here, I'm just going to add the parameter now. So I'm getting the option to create and initialize this property with control dot. And I'm just going to press control dot again to also add my null check here. And so again, like in like 3 clicks, I added a parameter, added its null check, and I got its name for me. So this is like we're really trying to help make you as productive as possible by guessing what you want to do and making it really easy for you to access. I need to write my JSON converter in here. And so you'll notice as I'm typing that IntelliSense might look a little different. Oh, different. Where we like bold now what you've actually typed so that you can see why things are being suggested to you. And then, oops, type of. And then we also have camel case matching support, which is also in that go to all feature. So if I know I'm looking, and so we also have these filter icons across the bottom, so you can filter your completion list. So if you're working like WPF and you only want to see events, you can filter just events. Or if you hate seeing extension methods, you can filter out extension methods and stuff like that. And they also have a keyboard shortcut associated with all of them. So you might need to hover at first and use your mouse to learn what they are, but they're pretty intuitive. Like enums is Alt-E, classes, Alt-C, etc. So then I can do Alt-C. I can do Alt-C. And then it will filter to only those. So I know what I need. So those are some of the IntelliSense improvements that we've also added. You'll notice that live unit testing is now telling me all of this is uncovered. And that's because I changed my constructor, so I don't have any references to it. So I'm going to actually look at my find all references for stop. And you'll notice that final references is completely different now. How exciting. We colorized it, so it's not just plain text looking output. And we also allow you to custom group how you want things to appear in here. So right now I have it grouped by definition. I can do it by project and then definition. And there's tons of different ways that you can group it if you want. So I can see that when I actually use the constructor of it, there's only one use. So I can just double click and navigate there. And now I can just add my direction. Do we have any questions so far on anything we've seen? Yeah. Cool. Nice audience. So again, live unit testing ran and figured out what changes were made, ran the test for me, and now you see everything's green. So what you might be noticing next are these kind of pink looking dots. Can you all see those from the audience? Kinda, yeah? Okay, so they're actually gray by default. I think that's like boring. So I made them pink. But a lot of people have given us feedback that they think they're smudges. They're like, oh, you have some like weird pixels. I think you like drew something wrong in WPF. These are actually on purpose. These are code suggestions. So typically in the past, we've only had the concept of errors and warnings. So if you wanted to alert a user about something that they could do in the editor, you'd have to make it a warning. Which seems a little extreme. So we've added this idea of a code suggestion, and you can investigate it with control dot, just like everything else. And when you do that, you can see here, that's telling me to use the explicit type instead of var, which you all might be like, say, what? Why? And so this is part of our new team code style configuration and enforcement that we've added to Visual Studio 2017, where from an editor config file, which is basically just a text file, you can basically codify your team's conventions. So again, there'll be more on this tomorrow, but for now, just to give you a little taste, you can see here are my team's var preferences. And so you can see for built-in types, so when the type is a parent, we prefer var, but everywhere else, we actually prefer the explicit type. And if you violate it, it'll appear as a suggestion for you to then fix. And so all of these come with code fixes, so it's really easy for you to adhere to your team's code style. So again, I can press Control dot, I can apply it, and now the explicit type is used here. And you'll notice that's a tuple. So in Visual Studio 2017, it came with C# 7.0 support, and probably the most exciting thing that came in that was tuples. So tuples allow you to return multiple values from a method, and you can also optionally name these tuple elements, so you don't have to call them item 1 and item 2, as I've done down here. And there's tomorrow evening, or yeah, I think it's tomorrow evening or afternoon, someone is doing an entire talk on C# 7, so definitely hit that up. I know I'll be there. And so you'll also notice, because I have item 1 and item 2, there's another code suggestion available to me. And if I investigate this, you can see that it's telling me that I should use the explicit tuple name instead. And so I can just go ahead and do that. And voila. Code suggestions can also be used for these, for teaching you new language features is one of the big things that we've done. So any of these 7.0 feature or 7.1, we're trying to help teach you how to move your code forward. One thing that's coming, I'm not sure if it's going to make it into update 3, but we've incorporated a lot of things from Productivity Power Tools, which is an extension that we own, into Visual Studio. So a ton of people got used to Control-Click from Productivity Power Tools. So now I can hold Control and click, and then we're going to go to definition for you, which is a pretty cool feature that people have asked for. I guess once you use Control-Click, you can never go back. And so people that were using Productivity Power Tools are now like, put it in the box, and so now, hopefully in Update 3, but it might have missed. So later, you will have Control-Click. You'll also notice that there's all these gray dotted lines going on. Can you all see those? Yeah. And so this is indent guides. It basically allows you to hover over and get the context of what is above it. So I'm like, oh, there's another class in here. So I have 2 classes in one file. So rather than having, like, my team doesn't believe that you should have more than one type in a file. and the actual name of the file should match the type. So now I can just, again, use a refactoring and move my type to a file with the same name. So in a single click, I can do that. And if I come over to Solution Explorer, sure enough, you'll see direction and direction converter. All right, so what's another example? Like, so I just showed you refactorings and code suggestions that can be used to teach you new language features, and code suggestions that can enforce code style. But what about like actual best practices, like with security or API design and things like that? So we have something called FXCOP. You probably know it as the Analyze Run Code Analysis, if you all run that. And so what that does today is it runs on build. So what Roslyn allows us to do, though, is run all of this analysis live. So we've taken like the top 100 of the FXCOP rules that are most used, and we've converted them into Roslyn analyzers so that they will show up live inside the editor and have code fixes associated with them. It's not shipped yet, but in update 3, we're going to ship a preview of an extension for it. And so I have that installed right now. And so we can just investigate some of them. Need to get rid of some of these. Okay, cool. So you can see they'll be prefixed with CA for code analysis. That's not the one I want to see. Here we go. So this is saying, oh, you have this type bus helpers. It contains all static members. And you can notice there's a code suggestion under this. And so if I investigate it, it's saying, oh, because it's a class that has all static members, you should probably make this class static so that you can't accidentally instantiate it. So again, in a single click, you can now apply this. Another one that we have that's pretty helpful is here it's telling me that I have, oops, let's go back to it. It's telling me that I have a parameter for a method that's never used. So I can probably get rid of it. And so I've come here, sure enough, there's pink dots under the parameter that I never use. I can do control dot. I can change my signature. And I can remove this parameter. That's okay. And now it's removed everywhere. And it's updated the signatures of these methods everywhere across my solution. And so again, we have like 100 of these. And they all have to do with API design and other like best practices with performance, scalability, etc. And so you can download the preview extension of that when update 3 ships. All right, I think that's pretty much all I have to show inside of Visual Studio right now. How do I get out of this now? Do we have any questions about anything I just showed? No questions. Okay. All right, so again, just to recap everything I just showed, we have the new install experience where it's now faster and lightweight. You can pick and choose what you want to install. We have the new lightweight projects that are currently only for .NET Core. So where you have file globbing, so your Solution Explorer and File Explorer are always in sync, which is super helpful when you're doing like source control and you're adding files. Rather than having to manually add them later into the Solution Explorer, they'll automatically be in sync as soon as you pull. We also have the CSproj file that's more lightweight. There's no files, have you noticed, in the CSproj? It doesn't have your files in there. So when you are adding in files and stuff, you don't actually have any merge conflicts in your CSproj file for that. We have live unit testing, which is an enterprise only. I didn't mention that, but live unit testing, the unit testing feature is an enterprise only. And that, again, is revolutionizing how unit testing works. So you don't have to figure out what you need to run. You don't have to figure out what tests you need to run. You don't have to manually click a button to run them. You just automatically get it. We have refactorings and code, tons of new refactorings and quick actions and code fixes. So every release, if any of you have been following since Visual Studio 2015 came out, every update since then, there's been at least like 5 refactorings and code fixes that have been added each release. And so we're really trying to push a lot of those in to make you productive as you're typing. We have a ton of navigation improvements. So you saw go to all. now has all the filtering in it. It also has camel case matching, which I guess I can show if you all want later. So that means you can like type the like humps in the letters and we'll like filter it for you. We have debugging improvements. So you saw run to click, which had the little play button that you can click to run the execution to that point. We also have the new exception helper that shows at the top level what is the most important thing. And then we have the better IntelliSense, where we have IntelliSense filtering. We have the highlighting, where it shows you the substring that you've typed inside the completion list. And we also help you name variables. All right, so now let's talk about how all of this can help you with your onboarding. So first of all, it won't take all day for you to install Visual Studio for your new developers, so that's a win. It'll take about like, I don't know, for me it took 30 minutes, so it depends on what you want installed. You also now have that editor config file. And so that editor config file travels with your source. So you just put it in like the top folder of your repository, and it'll just travel with your repo. So when anyone clones it or anything, they get it. So if you're an open source author and you want everyone to have the same code style, just stick an editor config in there. And if they open it up inside Visual Studio, they're going to get all those warnings and errors if they violate your code style. And no one has to learn it. They don't have to go read your guidelines or anything. It's just automatically enforced inside the editor. And then we also have added a ton of refactorings and quick actions in the box so that you can be productive right away when you install Visual Studio. So for those of you who like lists of things, here's a pretty approximately complete list. I like missed a ton of refactorings and stuff, but it's a pretty good overview of everything that we've added in 2015 as well as 2017. And so you'll notice that 2015 came with C#6, 2017 is C#7, as well as 7.1 will be in update 3. And then here's like a complete list, so I'm sure it'll be online later if you actually want to look at this entire list. All right, let's talk about performance. Yay. All right, so here's an actual customer quote that we got because we spend a ton of time talking to customers, learning about their experiences and how it can make them more productive. So this says, performance is the biggest issue. It takes an actual minute or so to start VS. Similarly, loading projects can be painfully slow. Does this resonate with anyone? You can raise your hand. It's okay. Yeah, almost everyone. Yeah. So obviously performance is a problem. And so we've spent a ton of time and effort like traveling to customers. Like I went to Chicago. Other people have gone to all over to actually go on premises with customers and watch them code and figure out what is the problem that people are having. So the first thing that we did is we turned full solution analysis off by default. So full solution analysis, you might be like, what the heck is that? Well, that was all like the Roslyn diagnostics that I was just showing. So all the live squiggles that are appearing. What's great about it is that, it's running this analysis over your entire solution. So if you ever make a mistake or do something that causes an error somewhere else, we're going to report it to you. But that's also kind of the downside because we're going over the entire solution. So if you're one of these people that has a solution with 200 projects in it or 500 we've seen, going over the entire solution over and over again, running this analysis can take up a lot of time. So we've actually turned it off by default. If you want it to run for your solution, you actually need to enable it in Tools Options, as I've shown here. So you should just automatically right away see performance improvements from 2015 and 2017 just because of that. The next thing we've done is we introduced this thing called lightweight solution load. And so what that is basically letting you lazy load your projects. So if you are one of these people that has 200 projects in your solution, but you only ever touched 2 of them, you can now just pay for the price of opening up those 2 projects rather than waiting for the entire set of 200 projects to load before you can begin working. And so it's off by default, but you can turn it on through this Tools Options option. Also, we will tip you inside Visual Studio. So if you have more than X number of projects and we notice that it's taking a while for Visual Studio to load, we'll send you a little pop-up being like, hey, might be faster if you enable lightweight solution load, and then you can just enable it from there. So to show how this actually improves your startup time, we have a video that we've made comparing 2015 to 2017. So 2017 is on your right, 2015 is on your left. We got a little running timer so you can see what the difference is with lightweight solution load actually enabled. And if you look closely, oh wait, it didn't even play. Oh crap. Wait, did you all see it? Okay. Oh, I clicked. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll start again. It's not that long. 50 seconds. You'll notice that you can tell you're in lightweight solution load in 2017 because it says lightweight in parentheses next to the head or your solution head. And so you can see like in about 20 seconds, 2017 started. And we're opening up Roslyn here. So the Roslyn code base is like millions of lines of code. It's massive. So our team works in every day. So we are also invested in Visual Studio Performance because that's where we write all of our code. You can see that 2015 is still loading because it has to load all of the projects. And so by the time that we actually get through it, it takes about almost a minute for 2015 to load, whereas we cut it down to 20 with lightweight solution load. Yeah. $2017 without lightweight loading? I don't know. I never looked at it. I would assume it's going to be a little faster than 2015, but probably still around that time. That's good. The question was, how long does it take with 2017 without lightweight solution load? And so it should be somewhat faster, but it's not going to be as good as lightweight solution load because it still has to load all the projects. The next thing we've done is that we've moved a ton of stuff out of process. And so what I mean by that is that they're not running in the main Visual Studio process. So basically, if things are running in that process, you'll start, that's where all the typing latency comes in, where you're like typing, and then it doesn't appear, and then all of a sudden, like the stream of everything you typed appeared, which is so frustrating when you're just trying to write something. And so we've moved a ton of things out of that main process so that that doesn't happen to you. So CodeLens has actually been out of process for a while, but now we're starting to move other things. So all that live code analysis with all this live squiggles, that now runs in a separate process. Live unit testing that you just showed, the enterprise feature, all of that runs out of process. And we also have more and more features that we're constantly trying to pull out of the main Visual Studio process so that your typing speed isn't affected. All right, to recap, we have full solution analysis is off by default to make everything faster. We have lightweight solution load, which we've released to help make startup time faster. And now a ton of features are running out of process to make you faster there. So let's talk about what's coming next. So what are we thinking about in the future? So based off the customers that have already tried Visual Studio 2017, these are kind of the top things that they've told us are preventing them from being productive. So the first is they still want more refactorings and code actions. So the first one they want is this convert a for loop to a link expression. It turns out that most people want this because link is hard. People struggle, especially people who are new to C#, don't really understand how link works. And so it's just kind of, they want this little toggle where you can just toggle between a for loop and a link expression. Do you all, is this something that you all are vibing with or no? No? I see a lot of no's. People don't want this. Well, apparently it's a young developer or like a new person to C# wants this. So we're getting a lot of requests for this. So that's something that we're going to work on. A lot of people just use it for general readability too. They're like, is this link expression doing what this person thinks it is? They'll do that. So you look at the expansion of the for loops and then change it back. The other one is adjust namespaces. So something that I didn't show was actually sync file and type name. So now if your type and your file name are out of sync, we have a refactoring to make them match. And people want the same thing for namespaces and folders. So that's like our next extension of that. A lot of people say, hey, like I write some prototypes, I forget that I never use some of these helper methods. Can you call them out to me so that I know I can just delete this unreachable code? So we kind of are starting to get there where we show you the parameters that you never use in method signatures, but now we need to go like next level and do like entire methods. People also want unreferenced DLLs to be pointed out to them. So if you have a DLL in your project, but you never ever reference it, to just let you know so you can just delete it. The next thing for all you web developers is to have Razor support so that you can rename a variable in a C# file, and if you used it in your Razor file, it will also rename it there. And same with navigation and all that stuff to include that whole full cycle. Classification of locals and fields, as people say, like, oh, I want all fields to be italic, or I want fields to be orange, or they just want to be able to tell the difference between locals and fields and have that more granular information. So that's something we want to work on. That one's going to be a big one because we have to, I don't know if any of you have ever used fonts and colors inside of Visual Studio, but it's a doozy. So we got to probably, with this new classification stuff, kind of rework that. And the next is completions for types without using. So it's, again, goes with the smarter IntelliSense. So if you write something, well, actually, I probably should show this. Let's go back. Nope. So we'll just have to deal with this. But like today, IntelliSense will fight you as you're typing, and something that I actually forgot to show you all is we have this add using feature. So say, all of a sudden want to throw some GitHub stuff in here, and I have this type that's unrecognized, so I don't have my NuGet installed. You can actually press Control Dot, and we're going to offer to, we'll basically find your package, offer to install it for you, and add the using for you. And so that's something that we've done. You have to turn this on, though. It's off by default. And so I'll just quickly show you how to do that. So you go to Tools, Options, and then you have to go to, where is it? Text Editor, C#, Advanced. And then you'll see it up here that you need to suggest usings for types and your reference assemblies and for NuGet packages. When you enable this for NuGet packages, it's actually going to download like a 10 megabyte file of an index of NuGet.org on your machine, which is why it's off by default, because some people might not have the memory for that. And so we have to put it off by default so we don't affect your performance. But if you do want it on, then this is what you need to do. And because it's downloading that index initially, it might take like 3 seconds or so before you can actually use the feature after you enable it. But so the next thing that people want is then if I do this, I should get IntelliSense for what I need to do in here. And so then if I dot off of it, it should give me IntelliSense for what this is, even if I don't have the NuGet package. And so that's what people are saying that they want next. Which, you know, you all like to make things easy on us, so thanks. Nope. That didn't work. Oh, this does not like Surface Books. Nope. Maybe I'll just close and try again. Yeah, okay. Yep. All right, so is there if you think there's anything missing off this list, come find me or tell me now, because we want to know what is bothering you the most and stopping you from being efficient, and we want to tackle that next. Also, if you're having really bad performance issues on your team, please reach out to us, because everyone has like little quirks that they've done, and it's like we will actually like sit down over Skype and walk through everything that you've done to figure out how we can improve your performance. Like we really, really want you to have a performant experience in Visual Studio. So I will give you my email at the end of this, and so feel free to reach out to us, and we will connect you to our perf team to work with you to figure out how we can make you more productive and not have all these perf issues. All right, so key takeaways again: lightweight projects, more productive inner loop, We have that better onboarding with editor config and with more things built into the box and with the lightweight install, so that now it takes maybe an hour to get someone started rather than all day or 2 days. And then we've done a ton of things with performance. Here are some of the resources that we have for you. So if you want to download VS, here's where you can download today. We have documentation for the first time ever for some of these refactorings that are in the box. So like you can click and see all the different refactorings. You can come see all the quick actions. And so it tells you how to use the light bulb, what can show, what common ones are. And we have screenshots and stuff for how to use it. So that's pretty exciting. What else do we have? Ooh, what's that? Yeah, okay. Oh wait, did you all see the, oh shoot, I'm sorry. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so where I was before is here. So we have documentation. You can see I was trying to download Git. I should probably give it this. All right. Yeah, so we show all the code generation tools that we have. We have all the quick actions, etc. And then we have pictures to help you learn it all and what it should look like, etc. So now I have documentation there. So if you are trying to learn exactly what you can do, because it's not always obvious, we have this for you. We also have this productivity guide. So if you're a new developer and you're trying to learn how to use Visual Studio and what all the different keyboard shortcuts are and stuff, you can download this. If you click on it, it'll just do that. And so it just shows you the top features that we have, and then all the different for 2015, 2017, what the different commands are. We also, if you're coming from Eclipse or IntelliJ or ReSharper and you're trying to learn the new keyboard shortcuts, we have this hotkeys extension. This is the 2015 one, but we have a 2017 one where we will rebind all your key mappings for you. And so a lot of people are like, oh, I come from IntelliJ and Java, please match my keyboard shortcuts. So we have that for you now. Hopefully it will get built into the box in the future, but for now we have an extension that you can use. And then again, if you find any issues or have feature requests, we use GitHub for all of this. And so this is the link, just Roslyn issues. And you can file all your feature requests, bugs that you find in this location, and then you can track how they're going from there. All right, so I think I have about 10 minutes left for questions. So do any of you have any questions for me on everything you just saw? No? Yep. The question was, do we have documentation for editor config rules? We do. The only downside is, here we go. So editor config basically has a core 6 rules that go across every editor. And then we've extended it for all of our .NET rules. And where is it? Okay, so here, it's in, we do have it documented. I'm just not totally sure where it is, the link to it. And here, oh, here it is, code style conventions. So then all the extended rules we have documented. I do have to caveat it with that I've been slacking a little and I haven't read the documentation for naming conventions or formatting. So only the code style stuff is done. There are links to editor config files that have all of those used. But for 15.3, or for update 3, I'll have it all documented. So by then it will be. But I can also walk you through how to do it tomorrow as well. Any other questions? Yeah. So the question was, does live unit testing support all the testing frameworks? It supports MS Test, NUnit, and XUnit right now. So yes on that, but it's again only for .NET. So it works for VB and C#, but none of the other languages yet. Yeah. right, so the question was, will editor config be integrated with Sonar tasks in VSTS? So what the future of editor config is that today, if you know about a Roslyn Analyzer is with those open source APIs that we provided, anyone can write their own code diagnostic. So you can write your own thing that will squiggle. So if you say like, oh, methods shouldn't be longer than 50 lines, then you can write a Roslyn Analyzer that will squiggle all methods inside your solution that are over 50 lines. And so what we're doing now is today you configure that through what's called a rule set file. We're actually trying to migrate towards editor config. So all of these third-party analyzers that you can install, that you can create yourself, will be configured also with editor config with the code style and the formatting and naming conventions. And that we're trying to make that, so that will work with your build, essentially. So as long as everything's installed as a NuGet, the compiler will be able to read that editor config file and force it at that level. So I'm assuming it will work if they update their analyzers to work with editor config and add that there, then it should work. Today, editor config does not break your build if you violate a code style rule. It'll just be an IntelliSense only error. If you've ever wondered what that stuff was in the error list, let's find it real quick. In the error list, if you ever wondered what this build in IntelliSense and build only and IntelliSense only were, build only means it will actually affect your build. IntelliSense means it's in the editor but won't affect your build. So right now code style is this IntelliSense kind of error, but maybe in update 3, but it might not make it. We'll have it so that we'll actually break your build if you violate a code style rule and it's set to error. So if you're a real stickler on your team, you're like, don't violate anything. You can make everything an error, and then people won't be able to build. Ooh, I got some mumbles about that. Ooh, you don't have to. Hopefully you have a nice dev lead. But if it's an option if you want. Any other questions? Nope. All right, well I didn't write my email address, so I should probably do that, since I did tell you all to email me. If any of you are confused on .NET Core and what the different terminology means, I got the PM for it to write you all up a nice little answer. So if you want to screenshot that, you got it. Because there's a big confusion about what's the difference between .NET Standard, .NET Core, etc. This is the answer. Okay, let me write down my email. You can call me Casey, and this is my email. So if you, again, are having those performance issues, if there's something you're missing, if you try Visual Studio 2017 without extensions and you're like, ugh, it's terrible, or, oh, it was great, let me know. I would love to know. And with that, I guess I'm done unless anyone has any last question. No? All right. Well, enjoy the rest of Techorama. I'm giving a whole talk on code style tomorrow, so if you want to come to that and talk more about editor config and how that works for code style, feel free to come. And thanks for coming.